Alright, so check this out. I think I drove through a wormhole or something. I got up and got ready for work, hopped in the car, ready to start my hour-and-a-half commute. I'm driving my normal route, and about 35 minutes into my drive, I miss my exit due to a weird traffic instance where I just couldn't get over in time. No big deal. I continue on and just let my GPS recalculate. I like using my GPS regardless of knowing the route because it gives good insights into traffic patterns and ETA and things like that. It recalculates to the next exit and even saved me a couple of minutes. I was like, oh, nice. Maybe I just found a secret shortcut to work. So at this point, I blindly follow the GPS as I'm unfamiliar with a lot of the route at this point, and I drive for another 20 or 25 minutes or so. This is when it gets weird. I come up on a road that seems familiar to me for some reason, and I discount the feeling because of the off chance that maybe I had been there before. I then turn onto the road and realize that I'm on a road that connects to the road that my house is on. And I've never gone this way because I've never had a reason to. I think, wow, alright, this is weird. How did I get turned around like that? At this point, I know I'm going to be late, so I call my boss and I let him know that I made a mistake. I decide that I might as well stop in my house to let the dogs out real quick to go pee. This is the weirdest part. As I approach my house, I look in the driveway, and my heart sinks. My car is in the driveway. Same license plate and everything. That's when I look down at the steering wheel and I realize I'm driving my wife's car. I pull into the driveway and I walk into my house. My wife was confused to see me because she knew I left for work not too long ago. I was surprised to see that she was awake because she works night shift at the hospital. I asked her if she, by chance, saw me take her keys out of her purse to drive her car that day. She reaches into her purse and pulls out her keys. I reach my hand back into my pocket and I pull out my keys. How was I driving her car with my keys? And by the way, our cars are very different, but the fobs are kind of similar. I again discount this as, just a weird mix-up and hop back into my car to go to work this time. I text an update to my boss and let him know the situation. I get on the road and this time I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss my exit. As I'm approaching the same exit that I missed last time, I see emergency vehicles lining the road and my exit is closed. There was a car crash on the exit involving a semi-truck. The car that was in the accident was the same make and model as my car. I found this to be very spooky, to say the least. Again, I'm now forced to drive a different route to work, and at this point, I'm all flustered. I call my boss again and update him, and he says, "No worries, you should still be able to make it in time for the meeting." I look down at my clock, and it's as if I was on time. But how? I immediately called my wife just to confirm that I was home a while ago, but she says that I wasn't and that she can't find her keys anywhere. I'm starting to freak out. I check my phone's previous calls and texts to my boss, and there was nothing. Like I'd never called him or texted him at all. Do I need to go to the doctor? This person includes several updates that say, Update 1. My wife found her keys. They were in my work pants that I wore the day before. Update 2. I asked my boss for a mental health day because the experience has been, honestly, very unsettling for me. I spoke with my boss about the experience that I had, and he said that I can take the day off to figure some stuff out. He's a very cool boss. And this is what I found out. It might generate more questions than answers, but here it goes. I tried to find any news regarding the accident that I saw. I've been looking up the exit and the interstate to see if I can pinpoint who was in the accident because, well, let's just say it didn't look survivable. But I find nothing. I can't find anything on the accident, and it's been eating me up. I mapped out my route and traced the exit that I thought I took. The only plausible exit that I took doesn't seem to connect or turn around back to my home in any way. It does, however, provide an alternate route to my work. I haven't been able to go back to the exit where the accident happened. I want to investigate it to see if I can see any sign of wreckage. You know, like fluid stains on the road, bits of car with matching color. You get it. I'll update when I get back there. I have somewhat of an eidetic memory, I guess. I mean, usually I can recall very specific information about an event, like when someone is wearing a specific color, or maybe what was on their coffee mug, things like that. Things that other people usually just disregard as unimportant. That's why this part is really, really frustrating me, because for the first time in my life, I can't remember any details about the interaction with my wife. My wife is my rock, and she's been incredibly supportive throughout this whole experience. I try to remember specific details about our interaction, but I can't seem to pick out any details like I usually would. She works night shift as a NICU nurse, and it was her day off, so her schedule is all over the place, and I thought for sure that she would be sleeping when I got home, but she was awake. The key fobs are another mystery, but for safe measure, I went out into the driveway and ran a test to make sure that the car would not start if I had the wrong keys. Because I've heard of such things being possible with certain cars, but no luck. It didn't start. I switched cars and tested vice versa. Nothing. The only plausible explanation here is that I maybe grabbed her keys from her purse after getting home unexpectedly, and then just drove my car to work. But this doesn't explain her keys being in my work pants from the previous day, and she found them before I returned home. I appreciate everyone's support and ideas through this weird experience, and I'll continue to update if I connect any of these dots. So far, I'm rationalizing it as some kind of false memory, or perhaps a lucid daydream, or maybe some sort of paracosm of disassociation, which doesn't necessarily make me feel any better. To the people that are saying this experience is fake, the thing is, it might be, but it felt very real to me, and I'm just trying to be rational about it. I don't know if I'm alive. This happened today, but I can't shake the weird feeling. So, after a music festival, the next day, me, my boyfriend, and some of his friends went swimming. It's a pretty small lake with a deck. We were throwing each other in and throwing a ball around and, overall, having a nice time. I had gotten tired, but I decided to swim to get the ball when it landed further in the water. The time I was swimming to the ball, I was thinking myself, just keep your head up, don't drown. because honestly, I was really tired and I have a fear of drowning. I got the ball and started to swim back. Suddenly, a weird feeling came over me, and I haven't been able to shake it off since. I feel like I died in that moment, or at least I lost consciousness. Everything just seems, I don't know, weird. And I remember that when I jumped in, one of the guys said, "Oh, she's already swimming to it." But my boyfriend told me that they were all telling me not to jump in and to not swim. And I just can't get rid of that feeling that I'm now living a life that's like, "That lamp looks weird" story. Someone left a comment saying, if the branching universes theory is correct, then in the other branch timeline, you simply didn't make it. They went on to share a personal story of their own and ended the comment with, "You're here, I'm here. Let's do the best with the chance that we have." What the hell happened? So, I work at Walmart and I'm a personal shopper, and I shop for people's online orders. I was doing an order and someone wanted 2 packs of yogurt containers. I got to the one that they wanted, but there was only 1 pack. I made sure to look very hard for another one, but there wasn't any more. So I grabbed the one, I did what I was supposed to do, and went on to the next item, which was another container of yogurt. And as I grabbed the item, I see what was a completely empty spot that had the prior yogurt was now completely filled with the first yogurt I was looking for. No customers were around and no employees were restocking, and I am still very confused. Alright, I've got something very special for 10 of you, so listen up. And if you're already fallen asleep, wake up because I want you to hear this too. I've partnered with a daily shot called Magic Mind. Their sole goal is to keep us sharp, creative, and focused all day. They're on a mission to make the best beverage on the planet, and the promise is that they do it the right way for everyone involved, even if and when it means going above and beyond industry standards. They also have money-back guaranteed refunds with 100% no questions asked. Whether you're also a creator or a gamer or a writer or an artist or you're painting minifigures, I see you out there, Magic Mind was made for you. With all natural ingredients like ashwagandha, turmeric, and lion's mane, this daily shot was made to keep us focused and sharp. And yes, you can still have your morning coffee or your afternoon energy drink if you want to. The first 10 people that use this code will get 40% off of their subscription. The code is ScaryStories40. That's ScaryStories40. The link to the website and the code is at the top of this episode's description. I hope you try it, and I hope you tell me how you like it. Baby daddy showed up twice. Last Saturday morning, I went to meet up with my son's dad so he could spend a couple of days with him, as per our usual schedule. We meet up at a convenient halfway point in a large box store's parking lot. It was early for a weekend, so I don't even think the store was open yet, and the lot was empty as far as I can remember. This particular day, we were parked in a long, empty row against a curb facing outward towards the curb, so there were no cars in front of us or beside us, and a wide driving aisle behind, between us and any other cars in the lot. I often arrive before his dad does, and the usual routine for my son and I while we wait is to keep listening to his audiobook while he fiddles around with the sunroof. As we were doing that, I saw his dad pull up to my left and park next to me on my side. He opened his door and got out to walk around our car. So I turned to my son, who has his head and his dog's head sticking out of the sunroof, of course, and I start saying my I love yous. Alright, real quick side note. I specifically noticed that the rear passenger window of his dad's car, which my son has covered in stickers, was rolled down, which is unusual with only him in the car. I always look for the stickers as a quick identifier when keeping an eye out for his car, as it's a reasonably popular make and model, and I don't think I've ever seen him do that before. I also saw that my son's dad was wearing sunglasses along with the tank top that we got years ago at a music festival. A tank is slightly unusual for him. I mean, he prefers t-shirts, but I noticed this tank in particular because it was old enough that I was there when he got it. His hair is getting long, and he had it kind of halfway pulled back, which he started doing recently. I saw all of this. I know I did. So, my son ducks his head back in, replies gamely to my goodbyes and hugs me, but then he gives me a funny look and says, "Why are we doing this already?" I laugh and point out my window to show him that Daddy had just pulled up while he was playing with the sunroof. Except, when I turn around to show him, his dad's not there. There's still no other cars parked beside us, or at all, or anywhere near us. My heart gave a kind of funny little leap when I saw this, because I know what I saw. But I tried to just shake it off because, well, what else could I have done? I laughed at myself and I told my son that his mom is being a goofball and just imagining things. I wasn't sleep deprived or anything, but I thought maybe I had spaced out for a minute. I don't know. We try to rationalize things, don't we? Less than 5 minutes later, my son's dad pulls into the same spot that I had, imagined that he was in before. He had his sunglasses and the festival tank top on. His hair was halfway pulled back, and the rear passenger window was rolled down so the stickers weren't visible. I was officially weirded out, but I still laughed it off when my ex asked me what was wrong, because I just didn't know what to do with the information that I had. I haven't even talked to anyone about this since then because it still freaks me out. Thinking about it in retrospect, I can't even remotely explain why, if I had daydreamed the first arrival, why I would have picked out those specific and unusual details. I know this isn't a huge glitch or anything. I didn't die in a car crash and come back to life, but it was so real and so random and specific that it's throwing me for a loop. Also, for the record, I have excellent fire and carbon monoxide detectors installed after we had a fire a couple of years ago, and we check them regularly. And I'm fairly confident, I guess about as sure as I can be, that it isn't a mental health thing, because just a few weeks ago I had a battery of tests, MRI, MRA, CT, angiogram, full blood panel, you name it. I had that done to try and pinpoint the reason for my medically insignificant on its own, just really annoying, occasional pulsatile tinnitus. While they couldn't figure out why it was happening, they also didn't find any scary tumors or aneurysms or any other baddies up there. Oh, and one other thing, for what it's worth. The first time that I saw him arrive, our puppy, who was held by my son who was standing up in the sunroof, got really excited He wiggled out of my son's arms and ran to my lap, just like he always does when he sees my son's dad arrive. I didn't even think about that until just now, but he did, and he was in my lap waiting until he arrived for real. I don't know. Seems like maybe he saw something too, but I guess I could be reaching. I'm a little dumbfounded, and I'll probably never know, but it was an unsettling experience for sure. This user includes an update that says, I did speak to my son's dad this evening about what happened last weekend. Unsettled for 2 reasons. First, in answer to my question, he says that no, he didn't arrive and then pull around the lot for any reason and then come back. So that's ruled out. The more disconcerting thing, though, was his reaction when I first brought it up. He doesn't remember us talking about it at all last weekend. Like, at all. I started off by saying, so, remember how I was tripping last weekend and thought you showed up, but then you didn't? And he kind of laughed, and he just stared at me blankly for a second. He said he doesn't remember. I said, yeah, remember when you showed up and I told you I said goodbye to the kiddo twice because blah, blah, blah? And he's like, kind of smiling along with what I'm saying, but I can tell he's lost. So I had to tell him the whole story again, start to finish, and it still didn't ring a bell for him. I mean, it's possible that he forgot, yes. He's not a noticeably forgetful person, though, but I don't know, man. Maybe he was distracted. I'd say it's much less possible that he's trying to pull one over on me to creep me out. It's not really his kind of humor. But I guess anything's possible. And the other possible things are getting real weird. One good thing is that he seems to believe me that something did happen. He's open-minded, but I can also tell that he was thinking maybe I got confused or whatever. But I know he's not flat out calling BS. I also asked my son if he remembered, but I didn't want to creep him out by going into too much detail. So, all I said was, remember how we said goodbye twice? And he was like, uh-huh. Unfortunately, he's also young enough and distracted enough that I'm not totally convinced he was following along authentically. Or just like, uh-huh, yeah, mommy, let me go back to drawing this picture of Minecraft dudes pounding other Minecraft dudes. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. You have any thoughts? Any suggestions? And unfortunately, I have no dash cam. My body wash disappeared while on a trip, only to find it in my bathroom when I got home. I went on a trip this weekend. I brought my shampoo, conditioner, body wash, and loofah. I know this because I used them while away. The loofah was wet and smelled like my body wash. I hung it up in the shower to dry. I remember carrying my body wash back to my room, which was in an Airbnb, but I couldn't find it the next morning. I was so tired that evening, I could have accidentally missed it and mistakenly thought that I had carried it back when I had accidentally left it in the bathroom. So I thought someone took it and I messed up by just leaving it in there. It's replaceable, so not a huge deal. I remember using the loofah with my body wash in the Airbnb. I remember struggling to carry my body wash with the shampoo and conditioner and the loofah to the bathroom, so I had to make 2 trips. I remember unpacking each and every one of these items, and I remember packing these items up before I left. When I returned home from my trip, my body wash was in my bathroom. The only explanation is that I had two and maybe didn't realize it, and someone did take it. But I know that I didn't have two. It was new, and it was the first time I'd ever gotten that scent and that brand of body wash. So, I have no explanation for this. I clearly used it, as the loofah, which was also new, was wet and smelled like the body wash in question. I had to shave, so I definitely used it, and I smelled great afterwards. I would never use my shampoo, and I would have used my face wash, which is unscented instead. This all just feels very odd. Inverted Big Dipper. One night at a party, I was outside taking a couple of drags off my cig and looked up at the sky, and the Big Dipper was inverted. Not like upside down, but I mean literally flipped and inverted. In the rules of this subreddit, it says that impairment can make it hard to distinguish a real glitch or not, but I was only 2 orchards deep. I'm over 6 foot and 250 pounds, and my girlfriend and I look at the night sky literally every night. It actually kind of freaked me out a bit, so I ran inside to grab my girlfriend, who was sober because she was the DD that night, to show her. And when I pointed it out to her, she laughed and said, That's never happened before," and just brushed it off like nothing happened. Does this happen? Or is this an actual glitch in the Matrix? Gravity change. Years ago, I was working on my laptop on my computer table. I noticed my laptop slowly sliding towards me. I then realized that my whole computer table is sliding towards me as if I was on a tilting ship. At one point, the gravity totally shifted behind me and threw me on the wall. My sideward fall made a significant hole in my wall, when suddenly the gravity shifted again towards the other end of the room. I fell again from wall to wall and cracked that side of the wall too. This all happened very fast, and I just realized that this might be a really huge earthquake and the ground floor of our house had just collapsed. My room's on the second floor. So as soon as I was able to stand upright again, I ran through the door. I was very worried about my younger brother who was watching TV on the ground floor. But as soon as I opened the door, there was my younger brother, confused as frosted mini-wheats because he heard some commotion upstairs and he thought I was hurt. Realizing that there was no earthquake at all, I was floored. This maybe happened 10 years ago or so, but to this day I'm still wondering what the heck really happened. P.S. I wasn't stoned or anything, and I had myself checked up because I thought I had vertigo, but honestly, nothing. Has anyone ever experienced walls changing colors? Hey guys, something weird happened this weekend and I want to know if anyone has any similar stories. I couldn't find anything while searching the sub. My boyfriend's family have this house on the countryside where me and my boyfriend like to go spend the weekends, like once every 2 or 3 months. Ever since the first time I went to this house, my boyfriend's room had its walls painted light green. Although the shade of green is pretty light, it's dark enough so you can distinguish it from other colors, especially white. Last month, I went to this house again, and the walls in his room were now fully white. I instantly noticed that it was looking different, and I said to my boyfriend that the room looked way better that way, with the white walls. My boyfriend looked at me like I was crazy and said, "What are you talking about? They've always been this color." I'm already used to him not paying attention to anything. He does have severe ADHD, so it's not weird that he's never noticed before. So I said that his room was green before. He denied it again, and then I showed him on my phone a picture of him inside the room with green walls. We laughed about his lack of attention to the world around him, and that was that. We spent the whole weekend there, and during that time, we slept in this room, now with white walls. Now, last weekend, his parents held an event there, and I got there earlier to help with the preparations. As soon as I entered his room, the walls were painted light green again. I asked him if his father asked someone to paint the walls again, and one more time, he said his walls have always been that color. I said, "No, man, last time I was there, the walls were painted white." But maybe his dad painted them white and then painted them green again. He assured me that those walls were not painted again in a long time because you could still see the stains that have always been there. Which is true, I could see the old stains and all the marks too. I then mentioned that we already had this exact same conversation last time I was there, but with the white walls, and he remembered that right away. I said maybe his dad changed the light bulbs, but he was 100% sure that no one did such thing. Although my boyfriend's memory is not that reliable, I do believe that no one painted the walls again or changed the light bulbs. I mean, even if someone did, last month I could still see the room white with only the sunlight that came from the window, and there were indeed very old stains on the walls, and things like marks where the beds used to touch the walls, and little spots from insects that we killed. My boyfriend didn't care that much about this occurrence. He said it was weird, but quickly moved on. I saw many stories here about objects going missing, but I've never come across anything like this. Has anyone here ever experienced a similar event? Having the same dream as someone else, but different perspectives. So, this actually happened close to a year ago now. It weighed on my mind a lot then, but I didn't know what to do about it. Something reminded me of it today, so I thought that I would share since the initial fear has worn off. Last August, my fiance and I were both working weird restaurant schedules, so we didn't keep in contact with our families the best. Especially me. My parents lived an hour away, and we'd had a falling out some time before, but we were working on it. I don't usually have dreams that I remember, especially ones that create genuine, long-lasting emotions, but one night, I did have this vivid dream. My fiance had been diagnosed with something terminal, in my dream, by the way, which was very shocking since he's incredibly healthy. We come to terms with it, and we're told that he has extremely limited time, so we plan a staycation. It's supposed to be just me and him riding out his last days. I know that exact of a timeline isn't really realistic, but in the dream it was like we had a timer. Anyway, some other things happen that aren't relevant to the story. He passes and I'm just beside myself with grief. I call my father, sobbing, and that's the last thing that I remember in my dream. I wake up frantically grabbing for my fiancé, waking him up, and I say, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? Does everything feel fine?" Other than a surprise interrogation at 4 a.m., everything was fine. I watched him like a hawk for days. Like I said, it's been almost a year, so the worry has faded. Cool, nothing crazy there, just a weird dream. About a couple days later, things are returning to normal. I'm calming down, and he's at work, so I decide to go see my parents for a bit. We're talking, hours go by. We start talking about weird dreams that we've had somehow, and my dad tells me a few nights prior he woke up out of a dead sleep, covered in sweat from a dream of me frantically calling him, sobbing, saying that there was something wrong with my fiancé. Sure, it's probably nothing, and my fiancé's health proved to be fine. But my dad and I hadn't talked in a month, and never about my spouse's health either. And to have different sides of the same dream on the same night, I just don't know what to think of that. What's the strangest coincidence you've ever experienced? I've had two weird ones, and they both involve women related to my stepdad. First, when my ex and I got out of the military, we moved back to Tucson, where we had bought a house during our second to last duty assignment. We decided to spend a weekend at a resort in San Diego for my 28th birthday. While out by the pool, I heard someone call my name, but I ignored it because I didn't know anyone in the area, so I figured they were calling someone else with my name. But she called again, and I turned around, and it was my stepsister, who I hadn't seen in years. She had lived in LA with her mom since we were kids. She came to the same resort on the same weekend as me, with no communication between us. She was with friends who drove from LA to San Diego for some wine tasting thing. The second coincidence was a few years later. I had found my dad through a 23andMe test. It matched me with a first cousin that I didn't know, so I asked her if she might be my bio dad's niece. From there, I got in contact with him, and he did 23andMe to confirm. About a year later, he invited me on a vacation with him and his other daughter. They live in Seattle, but he got a VRBO in the ski resort / lake town that I grew up in Idaho. While we were there, I let my step-relatives know that I was in town, and my stepdad's sister invited us out for drinks. When we showed up, my bio dad and step-aunt recognized each other right away. He'd been out there with some old army friends a few years before, and my aunt was a friend of a friend. They hadn't stayed in contact or anything. They had no idea that I was connected, and us going out to the bar was literally the second time they met. My mom hasn't even seen my bio dad since she got pregnant with me, and didn't have any idea where he lived. And he didn't know that I even existed until I was 30, years after he first met my stepdad's sister. Do you all have any strange connections like this? Do you think it supports simulation theory? The rock gods returned my missing shoe. So, this happened a couple years ago, but I wanted to share. When I was in college, I used to go hiking and trekking a lot with my friends. We used to do it within the campus itself. I mean, our campus was massive. It was an ancient institution that was spread across hundreds of acres of forest land, rocks, ponds. You get it. It's quite beautiful, but colossal. Once, on a hiking trip, some 30 or so kilometers away from my dorm, I lost one of my hiking shoes. I was quite upset, as I didn't want to ask my parents for money to buy a new pair, and I loved this one. I wasn't sure where it went, but I was sure that it had fallen off a cliff when we were rock climbing. It's quite a risky activity without any safety gear, but it was a beloved ritual on every full moon night when there was enough light. I had removed it briefly to sit cross-legged and tell ghost stories with my friends. I somehow returned with some difficulty without the shoe. A couple of weeks after that incident, I was walking back from class and into the communal mess, looking down and thinking of the shoe that I'd lost. I looked up and, as though magic, the lone shoe was in front of me. Literally in the middle of the road that led to the mess. It was no worse for wear, and I had no idea who put it there. I rushed back to my room, thinking it was the piece that I had, but lo and behold, the other one was under my bed where I'd kept it. I still don't know how it appeared in front of me like that precisely when I was thinking about it, weeks after I'd lost it so far away from where I lived. Dog came back inside window, but I don't know how. This happened yesterday, and I'm sure there's an explanation, but I have no clue how, but I'm so happy this happened. My sister lives across the street and has a 14-year-old dog who has to be picked up and carried up steps and to get into the bed. He was at my house hanging out, so I let him outside yesterday morning through the front door to go pee. I was hoping that it'd be a quick pee, but he started walking up the driveway, sniffing around, so I stepped back inside. I closed the door and continued cooking breakfast when I had to run across the street to my sister's to grab a container. Once I walked outside, I was like, oh crap, I left him outside. I didn't see him while walking over to her house, so when I got to her door, I asked if he came to her house or if he was in her backyard, but she said he wasn't there. It's normal for him to wander off, but I know people don't play about their dogs and started to panic like, oh my god, did I just lose her dog? I start looking around outside, calling his name. He always comes when his name is called, so I was panicking even more once I realized there was no sign of him outside. I went back into the house, searching, and went upstairs in a desperate attempt looking for him. But knowing good and well, he can't go up steps. You guys, not only was this dude upstairs, but he was laying on the bed, sleeping. I mean, snoring. Best sleep of his life. Now, mind you, the bed is at least 2 feet off the ground, and this little dude can't even get on the couch, barely even a dog bed on the floor, let alone a bed that high off the ground. I was so relieved to find him, but I have no idea how, but I'm so thankful that I didn't lose him. His mom would have never forgave me. Weird thing with time. Okay, so I've never posted here before, but I found this sub a while ago after I continually experienced something I can only explain as a glitch. And I'm still experiencing it to this day. It's a fairly minor thing as far as glitches are concerned, but still strange enough to give me pause. For the last year or so, I'll look at the time, And this can be on anything, like the stove, my phone, my Fitbit. I'll make a note of it. I'll often check the time again in what seems like a few minutes later. I do this because often I'll check the time initially, make note that I've got to leave or start doing something in 5 or 10 minutes, and then check again. Numerous times per week, when I do this, a large amount of time has passed. As an example, I'll check the time and it'll read 12:05. I'll check it again, seemingly minutes later, and it'll read 12:50. You might be thinking, well, easy. She's just losing track of time. But it's happened during activities that I know don't take as much time as the clock is stating. I'll walk my dogs around the block. I know it takes 20 minutes. I'll check the clock and it'll say 1:20 before I go. I check it 10 minutes into my walk and it'll say 1:50. I'm not just checking time obsessively either. Oftentimes I'll make note of the time when checking a text message on my phone, and it even happens then too. I'll get a text message at 11:30. I'll go to answer it at what should be 10 minutes later, but the time will say 12 o'clock. I don't know. I hope I'm explaining this in a way that's understandable. It's really been bugging me lately. At first, I was able to brush it off. I would think I must have misread the time when I first looked. But when it started happening so frequently, I started to wonder what the hell was going on. Guy on bike disappeared. I'm waiting at a small, insignificant train stop, just a single rail and a tiny rooftop. Behind the stop, there's a metal fence and a factory, probably something to do with metal processing. As I stand there, I notice a man riding a bike behind the fence. He looks like a worker, probably heading to work on his bike. He rides past me, and out of curiosity and boredom, I turn around to watch him. I had to take a step back and turn a bit more to get a better view because of the way the fence is designed. The metal beams are curved in a way that you can see clearly to one side, but not the other. I don't know how to explain it perfectly in English, but it was only about 2 to 3 seconds from when I first noticed him to when I turned around and looked to where I expected him to be. But he wasn't there. He was nowhere in sight, which seemed impossible given the layout, the buildings and the open space and the fence. There was nowhere for him to hide nearby. He wasn't going fast at all when I saw him first. It really just feels like he vanished. What the heck? The mimic in my house. Just wanted to share after seeing so many stories on TikTok. So, this is just one of my encounters through my short life so far. I've had many encounters before this and after this. Here's a little background info. 2 years ago, me and my family moved across states and moved into my current home. We usually have a lot of people in our house, and my family is usually outside on the porch. Some family was supposed to be flying back to the state we moved from that day. I was getting home from school last year and was walking through the door. My mom was walking past into her room, and I called out to her. She didn't answer me, so I just brushed it off because she has pretty selective hearing. My dad was outside smoking, so I went outside and gave him a kiss and a hug to let him know that I got home. I thought he was joking with me and laughed, saying that she probably forgot something and was just coming back to get it. I pulled up my phone to look at her location to prove that she was there, and it said that she was 45 minutes away at the airport. My dad looked at me weird and said, "Told you so." But the thing with my mom is that she's kind of short. My sisters and I are all a couple of inches taller than she is. She also dyes her hair like an orange color, and one of my sisters has black hair, and the other one has dirty blonde. Nobody in our family really looks like her. Now, what's really the kicker in this story is that a week ago, we were talking about our ghost experiences in a group of me, my dad, and my mom. I retold my story, and my dad got this look on his face. He does that face when he doesn't want to say something scary. I pressed him on it, and it turns out that something similar happened to him. My dad's from Morocco, and his mom visits from time to time in the States. One time, when she was supposed to be in Morocco, he saw her walking up the steps to go upstairs. He was home alone. Me and my sisters were at school and work, and my mom was at my aunt's house. He chills on the couch a lot, and from sitting where he usually sits, you can see the top portion of the stairs in our house. He, being the man that he is, walked up the steps after he saw that she disappeared upstairs. He gets upstairs and sees her walk into the room that she would use when she lives with us. My dad walked into the room and, obviously, no one was in there. So, apparently, we have an entity that likes mimicking others. Oh, and I saw my mother completely solid. It looked like my mom, even down to what she was wearing that very morning. Mom seemed to teleport out of the room in the blink of an eye. I really don't know how to explain this one. Weird stuff has been happening for the past few months. I put it down to the fact that I have existential OCD, and my OCD was playing tricks on me with mental images and the time, etc. But this one cannot be explained. I woke up this morning to my mom nagging me to get out of bed as we had stuff to do. Fair enough. I start getting up as she's across the bed from me, fiddling with the drawers. We talk a bit, and then she turns, I assume, to start heading out of the room. But keep in mind, she's very far away, as I have a very big room. I don't remember all of the ins and outs this morning as I had just woken up, but I legit itched my eyes for not even a second, and she was gone. I tried recreating it myself, and the only way to get out of that door in that time would be to full-on sprint, which she obviously didn't do, and even that's a push as I close my eyes for legit no more than a second. I asked her, and she said it's my brain again just playing with me, and nothing happened, but it clearly did, and this is one that I definitely cannot explain. I did of course just wake up, which doesn't help, but I feel like my perception is amazing, and when I think I see something, I would say I'm almost always right, and this just didn't make any sense. Weird experience after sleep paralysis. So, I quit smoking weed this year. It was pretty easy to kick, but there were some side effects, mainly sleep-oriented. I started to have sleep paralysis every couple of weeks and very vivid dreams. I read that it wasn't uncommon. I've had sleep paralysis a few times when I was a kid, but the very last time was kind of strange compared to the other times. It started with a strange nightmare. The main thing that I took away from it was that the reality in the nightmare was somehow sentient. Anyway, I open my eyes and there's a triangular hole in the ceiling. I think to myself, what the heck? But before I can finish that thought, I have the realization that it's sleep paralysis. And when I realize that, I notice a very tall shadow entity beside me. It bends down, and I close my eyes and weakly start to whisper, "Please go away, please go away," over and over again. After about 10 seconds, I open my eyes and everything is back to normal, except one thing. Going across the ceiling is a small patch in this weird, iridescent grid pattern. It was almost kind of holographic in nature, kind of purple and teal colored, and it lasted for a good long time. I'd never had that happen before after sleep paralysis, and it stuck with me ever since. I really felt like a slight hint that we do live in a holographic universe. Wafer cookie glitch. Not the craziest story, but I had a few wafer cookies left in their package that I didn't want to get stale, so I put the whole package in a Ziploc sandwich bag. I took them to bed with me 2 nights ago, and I ate them before bed. When I got to the last one, my dog tried to take it from me, and I looked at my husband and said, "I would have been so mad if he got my last cookie." At which point, I crumpled up the bag and wrapper just to be sure that there weren't any cookies left, and then I set it on top of my headboard so my dog wouldn't eat the wrapper. Fast forward to yesterday. When I get home from work, I must have accidentally left the bedroom door open. I usually shut it because my dog likes to eat blankets. Anyway, on the bed is the wrapper from the cookies that the dog must have grabbed off the headboard, and when I picked it up to throw it away, there was still a cookie inside it. Now, I know for a fact that I would have noticed that cookie when I crumpled the whole thing up. And also, my dog is a savage and will tear through any wrapper to get to any food. So not only do I have no idea where one more cookie came from, I also have no idea how my dog pulled the wrapper down without finding and eating the cookie. My car had a black hole. This happened in September of 2022. That day, I had gone fossil hunting and found a cool fossilized shark's tooth which was white in color. Later that afternoon, I had the tooth on my lap in the car waiting to show my girlfriend. And by dumb luck, when I moved, the tooth fell out of my lap, and I watched it slip in between my seat and the center console. Frustrated, I pulled my seat forward and went around back as it was easier to see underneath the seat from the back seat. To my surprise, there was nothing to be found. My car was already clean, but I decided to take the floor mats out, and still nothing. Also, there was a small gap in the upholstery floor where wiring was, but that was covered up by the floor mat and only accessible from weird angles. Yet, when I lifted it up to check, still nothing was there. I spent a good 10 minutes checking under the seat and pulling everything out of the car to no avail. I even checked the ground outside my car, in case I had just imagined watching the tooth slip into the gap between the seat. Sadly, I never found the tooth, and the only proof that I have of its existence was a picture that I took right after finding it.